Yo guys, what's up? I realized that it's been a while since I did a comedy video, and being a person who likes God and Jesus, I also realized that all the Bible stories are just obsolete. An honest character who sacrificed himself to save the people around him, that doesn't suit with the Belgian mentality of 2017. So I decided to translate the acts of Jesus into a sarcastic modern-day story. Bear with me. It was the evening of the Last Supper in Bethlehem. Jesus walked into his dining room, where his 12 disciples were sitting at the table. All of them had spent the entire afternoon gathering food and beverages for the big dinner party. Jesus sat down and started digging in. His disciples were waiting for a signal to join in and start eating, but the signal never came. After Jesus had eaten all the food and all the beverages were gone, Jesus stood up, turned around, and left. He didn't say a word to his 12 disciples because he didn't want to hurt their feelings. Because pretending that living people are dead is the best way of not hurting them. Jesus heard that his pager went off and looked at it. It was his friend, King Herod, asking Jesus for a new stash of crack cocaine. Jesus opened his safe, took a few rocks of crack out of there, and also a pack of wonderful antidepressant pills filled with crystal meth, because 70% of Bethlehem's inhabitants swallowed antidepressant pills with crystal meth, because that was a lot better than smoking weed. He turned a few rocks of crack into 50 rocks and went out the door. Jesus walked past the lake and saw a fisherman who was smoking something. Jesus went to check it out, smelled a strong plant scent, and took out his smartphone to call the Romans, who arrived at the lake immediately to put this criminal in jail. Because, smoking weed is the reason why there was terrorism, and a Holocaust, and World War II. The weed smokers even caused the Battle of Hastings. Jesus kept walking and saw a person lying in the middle of the street, and an angry motorist from Samaritan origin, kicking this person in the ribs. Jesus sprinted to the scene and said, "No, my son, no! If you keep kicking his ribs, you might hurt your foot. Kick him in the face. That's more efficient. Allow me to join you." Jesus and his new biker buddy kicked the person to death when the Romans walked up to them and asked, "What are you doing, Jesus?" And Jesus said, "It's okay, officer, it's okay. He was unemployed and handicapped." The Romans said, "Oh, okay then." Jesus parted with his new friend and went into King Herod's palace. At the help desk, a woman with big titties greeted him and asked for his name. Jesus said, "My name is Jesus Christ." The woman with big titties hesitated and said, "Can you please write that down on this visitor's manifest? Because actually, I cannot read or write, let alone spell." Jesus shook his head from left to right, wrote his name down, and went into Herod's office with the rocks of crack. Herod was happy. He said, "Jesus, I cannot pay you, but I have a car that I never use. It's yours now." Jesus said, "Well, if you throw in 2 baby girls, that would be okay, because, I'm getting a bit lonely. And you did murder all the baby boys by throwing them off a cliff." The problem was settled, and Jesus sat down and drank exactly 14.5 beers, because you're only a full-blown alcoholic in Bethlehem if you drink 15 beers a day. Bethlehem was the biggest cocaine city in the continent, even though Jesus had been elected 3 years ago, because he wanted to get rid of all the drugs in Bethlehem, and the people believed him. How stupid. Moses was there as well. He had led his people, the Jews, out of Egypt and into a socially accepted concentration camp. They worked and got money, but thanks to inflation they had to pay more money than they earned, so they worked weekends as well. Moses was the camp commander and made a good living off of them. But Jesus said, "Moses, I am the king of the Jews, not you. You need to split that money with me, or I'm sending the Albanians on your ass." Jesus had an Albanian ex-girlfriend, so he knew the kind. After establishing a new extortion deal with Moses and 14.5 beers, Jesus got into his new car and drove home. He knocked over 2 pedestrians and fled the scene. He passed the lake again and saw 10 people hanging from the gallows with Romans next to them. Jesus pulled over and asked, "Weed smokers?" The Romans laughed and nodded. Yes, criminals, terrorists. So Jesus nodded his head and said, "Well, they should have switched to some nice legal crystal meth antidepressant pills." The Romans asked, "Have you been drinking, Jesus?" Jesus replied, "Only 14.5 beers, officer, not 15, so it was all good." Jesus drove on, hit another pedestrian in front of his garage, and went inside 1 hour later after he had found his house key. He switched on his TV and watched the news, where he heard that Bethlehem still had a $3 billion deficit, and the biggest multinationals in Bethlehem still didn't need to pay $800 million a year for company taxes, so Jesus was happy. He picked up a piece of paper and wrote down some new rules to wage new taxes on the civilians of Bethlehem. The city had officially been turned into Brazil. Jesus smiled and went to bed for some sweet dreams and to get over his hangover. The new taxes would be invested in YouTube E-Zone for Jesus' YouTube channel. 1 million sub-bots were only a few days away. So that's the new and improved Bible 2017 story, people. I hope you liked it. Obviously, this story is based on the mentality of the Belgian government and 33% of the Flemish voters. Now you understand why I am such a bipolar asshole. Big shout out to my unfortunate friend TerraVision Gaming, who saw the ceiling of his room collapse. Thank God you were not in there when it happened. My point is, people, even if other people hate your guts for being honest, do not change your wonderful personality. See you on the next one, guys. Peace.